I have a feeling I think we should be checking Santa's bag for body parts. Here's your Christmas spot on the McFarlane Toys Twisted Xmas Santa Claus. McFarlane Monsters Action Figures Series 5 Twisted Xmas Santa Claus figure never fails to bring the terror to even the sweetest of subjects. And here the special touch is given to the happiest of holidays, Christmas. Here old Saint Nick, as he's never been seen, wearing a gas mask and gloves inspired by Freddy Krueger. Who knows what horrible gifts he'll be bringing the good little boys and girls this holiday season. Now with the festive season in full swing, I thought instead of going back and looking at the Ghost of Christmas Past, we would look at the figures of Christmas Past, specifically from 2007 when we got the Twisted Xmas figures from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. I thought this time around we'd be unpacking these again and having a look at the entire wave. Starting off first, of course, with Saint Nick himself. We're going to go ahead and grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands, and then we'll talk a little bit about the accessories that he has. St. Nicholas, or Santa Claus if you will, stands 5.5 inches in height, or the figure is going to be 14 centimeters tall. As for Santa Claus's accessories, he's actually currently wearing them right now. The figure comes included with a display stand you'll probably already see attached to the bottoms of his feet. He also comes included with a gas mask that is also attached to his beard. And of course he comes with a famous Santa Claus hat as well. Picking the figure up, first thing I will say is when you're picking this figure up for yourself, picking up online that is, you want to make sure that if you're buying this guy loose that you do also get yourself the display stand. The display stand does come rather in handy because Santa Claus is quite top heavy. You can see he takes a tumble. Unlike a Weeble that they can wibble and wobble and never fall down, Santa Claus though will take a tumble without really the included display stand. As I put Santa down here for a second, the actual display stand you'll see has a snowy terrain. I really always like the way that they've painted these. It sort of has, again, like that retro look to it. The bottom of it, as you can see, is cast in more of a frosted ice blue, but then they've dusted the top very delicately with a nice single coat of paint. Maybe there might even been 2 coats of paint. You can also see as well there's some jingle bells cast off to the side. There's also a few little scattered rocks there as well. And notably, there's also these 2 pegs. Those will plug into, obviously, the bottoms of Santa Claus's feet. We're going to put the stand to the side for right now, at least, picking Santa back up and getting a closer look at the figure. This is a line of figures that don't always come out to my collection until Christmas time. And every single year since the time I actually did the first review of these guys always end up going out. Maybe not on the mantle, because apparently the rest of the family doesn't like the idea of having horror holiday characters all out. But these usually end up going in my office. Santa Claus I thought would be the best one to be looking at first. A roly-poly little fellow. You can see he is wearing, first of all, a gas mask that is attached to his beard. So when you do want to remove the gas mask, as this is one piece, you're going to actually ultimately be taking the beard off as well. And there's a very nice festive surprise underneath. Probably not a surprise you're not going to like. The figure does also have a hat. That's something that also can be removed. We'll just go ahead and take the hat off right now. I've noticed with the time that I've had these figures that they've gotten a little bit gummy. That usually is the side effect with plastic over time, that sometimes they do get a little bit more, I mean, like not sticky necessarily, but they feel like they're a little bit more tacky. On the inside of the hat, for some reason, it does say A. I don't know why it says necessarily A, but that literally just attaches onto Santa's head. Now, when you are attaching it, though, you'll see there on the back of the hat, there's a little lip of plastic. I guess that's supposed to be the back of his hair. You have to kind of tuck it in between his collar and essentially his head. So see this little lip of plastic right here, or the little opening here? You can basically take the hat and you push the hat down. And that kind of does a good job, in fact, of actually holding everything in place. It survives more easily the blizzard test where the hat's not going to be going anywhere. Before we actually talk a little bit about the reveal, because, of course, we're going to be yanking off Santa Claus' face in a moment, I did also want to draw your attention to the very long claws that he has. Buying this guy loose online, sometimes these bladed claws actually end up being broken, because if you look at them, the nature of the plastic is it doesn't have a lot of give, so it will be something that would be potentially breakable. When I do store these guys away, I'm always very careful because, of course, Santa Claus, above all actually really all the figures from the Twisted Xmas have something that could be potentially broken. Santa Claus just happen to be the Freddy Krueger claws that he has. I love the way that the claws have been sculpted, painted nicely here in a gunmetal gray. And then they've also got this additional I don't know if I would best describe it as kind of a copperish gold, but he has these springs attached each of the claws to kind of his mid-knuckle area, and then he's also got a continuation of that gold carried all the way off to these spiked bracelets that he has around his forearms. They're really cool looking hands. They actually are posable too. You can rotate them around. These figures, of course, being by the nature and the time frame that they were released by McFarlane Toys, they don't have the most articulation to them. In fact, when we do look at the figure's articulation, you might even be able to count on one hand how many points of movement this figure does actually have. Of course, he does have the reveal, so we're going to go ahead and take the hat off right now. The front of the face, of course, you could easily just have the figure displayed really without his hat. On the top, you can see there's a little band-aid kind of keeping the cracks together. I think Santa has more than worries than just cracks alone. But he does also have, again, like that beard with the gas mask. I love the way they've actually painted the sections of his eyes kind of in a more off, sickly green. The beard down below here, I'm guessing, was probably molded in black plastic. And then like the snow that they've dusted on the display stand, they would have probably painted a coat of white paint over top of it. So you can see like the recessed sections of the black underneath it. To take off his mask is just a case of literally just pulling it off. If you look on the inside of the mask, actually one thing I did say earlier was black, but looking at it, it's clearly a more clear plastic. So they probably would have painted this in black, then painted in white over top of it. But if you look to the back, there is a section right here, a little peg. And that peg actually sits, of all places, inside of his nose. And basically that's where you're going to be plugging the mask back in place. Once the mask is removed, you can kind of see the full reveal of Santa Claus. I don't know if he's decayed, he's been dead this whole time, and maybe it's just the Christmas magic alone that's keeping this guy going. But he is a decayed-looking Christmas character, really. I mean, Santa Claus is the most iconic of characters. I think Santa Claus, though, has seen better days. I love the way they've actually painted the sections of his eyes here, where one eye is a little beady bit of red, and then the other eye looks like just a decayed, mummified eye. There's no articulation here. I would have loved if they could have had a way to maybe have the jaw, for example, be something that could open and close, but sadly, that's not the case. One little touch of detail I also really like is if you look at the front of his very dirty-looking shirt. This looks like a shirt that hasn't been cleaned in a while. Sleigh bells ring. Are you listening? I'm certainly listening. I can't imagine how many years of sweat have settled on this shirt, but it looks definitely very grimy and filthy. Maybe the elves, maybe that's not one of their responsibilities. They have very pointedly said to Santa, listen, Santa, we'll make your toys, but there's no way we're doing your laundry, and I don't blame them either. The coloring of his jacket is actually really quite good. I mean, you've got this very bright, vibrant red that they've done. Nice little darker colors of also a more crimson red that they've added in there to the tops of the jacket, the inside interior of his jacket there as well, and a nice furry trim down below. Some of the paint is a little on the messier side, but again, for being a 2007 figure, I can excuse that. The lower half of his body, of course, has a belt that's really holding a lot, has to hold a lot back. I mean, it has one of the notches already being used. I mean, is that the first notch? I mean, I don't think he can actually make, unless he puts another couple of holes in there, Santa's probably going to have to watch eating that Christmas pudding. And then, of course, he does also have the big, very long kind of elf-like shoes. Peg holes very obviously are on the bottom, but very obviously are important when it comes to this figure, because without that, Santa's going to take a tumble. Now, for the figure's articulation, it's probably best, in fact, I actually left all this stuff off. The figure doesn't have any head articulation, so I guess I really could have just easily left the head on. Like I said, the mouth doesn't open and close. Missed opportunity, I feel. Now, the arms do rotate back and forth. Everything on this figure is extremely tight. So you're basically going to only have swivel in the arms, for example. And then you're also going to have swivel in the hands. So you can also bring those hands up. I mean, there's mileage to be made, of course, for where you're going to be having these displayed. I mean, the further the arms up, even more of a wobbling issue you're going to have for St. Nick. So you definitely want to make sure you're going to be using the display stand. There is no waist articulation. And then he also has articulation here for his ankles, and that's it. So at the end of it, you're really only more getting, kind of like with the terrain of what McFarlane was doing back in the day, you're getting very detailed, essentially staction figures that only have a few little additional points of articulation. Santa Claus, though, man, it's a charming looking figure. I don't have it, like I said already, or mentioned early, I don't have this figure displayed on the shelf all the time. This is one of those treats that I always kind of reserve near to the beginning of the year. So actually, at the time that I'm going to be doing these reviews is at the time that I'm going to be putting these guys out. They come out for Christmas, and then into the new year, they get stored away carefully again. Santa Claus, again, the most carefully. You really want to worry about those blades that he has on the ends of his fingers. But man, what a fun-looking figure. If you get the chance, pick this guy up. Getting him online in a sealed condition can be quite expensive. He goes for some crazy, stupid money. In fact, I think all of them go for crazy, stupid money. Mrs. Claus, that we will also be looking at, I think is the craziest, stupidest money. I gotta stop saying that. If you guys manage, though, find this guy loose, you probably could get this guy, I would imagine, for probably maybe $40 or $50. And even then, that's a lot of money. But make sure, though, if you are getting this guy and you are getting him loose, that all the things are on Santa Claus. Everything is included, especially the display stand. And dare I say, you don't want to have any one of Santa's claws broken when you end up having this guy shipped to you. Ho, ho, ho. Here in Final Looks, we've got, of course, the Twisted Xmas Santa Claus. I've got the figure currently displayed with the Santa hat. You don't necessarily need the beard and the gas mask to have the hat included. The hat, again, just tucks into the back of his collar, in between his head and the back of the jacket. So if you did want to have the figure displayed without the beard, I prefer the beard myself, you can go that route. It does, though, draw one more thing to the attention of Santa's face, is still I wish that the figure had jaw articulation. I think at 2007, the standards for figure articulation probably didn't apply for jaw articulation. I still wish that the figure could have had the means to move his jaw up and down. The figure only has very limited articulation in his shoulders, in his wrists, or in his forearms, and in his two tiny little elf feet. Make sure, of course, you always have this figure displayed with the included display stand, because Santa is way too top-heavy and way too roly-poly that he might, in fact, roly-poly himself right off the shelf and likely break any one of his claws that are attached onto the ends of the hands. The figure, while having lacking articulation, more than makes up for it with a pretty cool, creepy Christmas vibe to him. Not only the way he's been sculpted, but the way he's been painted as well. I did initially get this entire set on eBay. I mean, this is the third time I think I'm looking at these figures. So this would have been way, well, like 20 plus years ago. I got the entire set, I think, for about $100. Good luck finding even one of these still sealed in clamshell with shipping and everything for about $100 a piece. I think Mrs. Claus, the last time I looked, her still sealed in the clamshell case. She probably was still about, I want to say like $75 or $80, and that's $85 US. So if converted that to Canadian, that's one Christmas present I wouldn't want to have to buy again. But what do you guys think of Twisted Xmas Santa Claus? Do you have currently this figure in your collection, or is this a figure line that you missed your chance to get and would love to get again? Let me know down below your comments. Let me know in the comments section your thoughts on what you guys think of the Twisted Xmas Christmas Santa Claus. And of course, we are going to be looking at the rest of the Twisted Xmas figures. Those are going to be kind of sporadically placed across the seasonal month of December, which of course we are currently in right now, if I'm looking at my calendar correctly. I have to still change that calendar. That calendar's from 2018. If you guys, though, enjoyed this video, I want to hit with a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you're on board to see the rest of the Twisted Xmas figures from the folks over at McFarlane Toys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and you're turning on the bell notification. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.